Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Pacific Toyota Dealers. My name is Dave Quadrelli. That is Harmon Dial. We're doing our show remotely today, and folks, people have been asking, when you do these remote show, guys, I don't like your backgrounds. It's being addressed. We've been in contact with our lovely Madison Rayburn of Nation Network, who is in the marketing department at Nation Network, and she's going to redesign our home offices, which is so nice. And I've started to see her plans that she's got for us. And Harm, it's gonna look nice. I think we're gonna get rid of the lamp that's behind you. We're gonna have a great little setup here for our shows from here on out. But Harm, how you doing today?
I'm jacked up to see the Canucks play Elias Lindholm's first game. So many exciting storylines. I mean, usually this point in the season would be the part where everybody's just focused on the trade deadline and, oh, what could we get for Tyler Mott or Luke Shen? That's the only interesting thing to watch down the stretch. Whereas now there are actual stakes. And I was having this conversation with one of my friends who is a Canucks fan now. The thing with adding Lindholm now is that there's actual expectations now to live up to a pretty high bar for what we're expecting from this team. So even the experience of watching this team, covering this team, following this team is going to be different. Like, we're going to be scrutinizing things that we normally wouldn't scrutinize just because the bar is a lot higher now for what we're expecting the Canucks to do. Because let's be honest, right now, if the Canucks finish this season and got knocked out in the first round of playoffs, that would be disappointing. Whereas at the start of the season, if you told somebody, okay, Canucks are going to make the playoffs, they're going to get knocked out in round one, everybody would have taken that.
Well, you'd be thinking, oh, well, that makes sense because they're going to face whoever wins the Pacific Division, because if they make the playoffs, they're just squeaking in. So,
Yeah.
of course, they're out in the first round. But no, they are going to be, knock on wood, they're going to be a top three team in the Pacific. It sure looks that way, if not the top team in the Pacific. We have to tell you that today's episode of Canucks Conversation, as always now, is brought to you by the 2023 Toyota BZ4X. The BZ4X is Toyota's brand new all-electric SUV that is designed to go the distance for you and your family. The BZ4X is packed with Toyota's coolest tech, but it still has that trusty SUV feel you know and love. And even though it's electric, it's capable of effortlessly conquering any terrain. Whether it's rain, snow, mud, or your friend's questionable post-game recaps, the BZ4X will get you through it all. That's it. Sorry, I have so many new scripts. We have a new sponsor today too, and it's a new segment. I teased it in the intro, or in the show description. The tune-up is going to be later on in the show, and Harm, you've got something prepped for that, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this segment comes to fruition. But before that, we got to talk about tonight's game. The Vancouver Canucks are taking on the Carolina Hurricanes, and Harm, Logan Van Dyke in the YouTube live chat immediately said, 9 days has felt like 14 days. It has felt like a long time since we've seen actual Canucks hockey. And honestly, like, I was going back to try to remember what we saw in the last games that we witnessed the Canucks actually play. It was hard to remember. Like, it was hard to remember what we last saw from this team. Obviously, expectations are high in the second half here, coming out of the All-Star break, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see them back in action tonight. Thatcher Demko gets the start. That's per Kate Paterson, who talked about it in her video that was posted on the Canucks social channels. And of course, the big news, Elias Lindholm makes his Canucks debut tonight. Okay, aside from Lindholm, Harmon, what are you looking for in tonight's game from the Vancouver Canucks?
I think overall, now that you've got a stretch here where you're going to start playing tougher opponents, of course, Carolina tonight, and they've started to get back on track. They've won seven of their last 10 games. They entered the All-Star break on a 3-game winning streak. So this is a different team than when the Canucks first faced them, and it felt like they were in all sorts of trouble, at least in terms of goal prevention. So this is going to be a tough test. And then with Boston as well on Thursday, I'm looking to see if the Canucks can string together more consistent hockey. I think in January, yes, they played a lot, but I think after they got back from that New York road trip, even though they were winning games, it didn't feel convincing each and every time. Now, part of that was, of course, the lower quality of competition, and we're sure to bring that up as caveats, and we didn't really criticize or dive too deeply into that. But Columbus game is a perfect example. It's great to have that comeback, but that second period, you just can't afford to have periods like that against tougher teams like a Carolina or a Boston. Even wins like the Toronto one where they go up early and then they again sort of have a second period, let the Leafs back into the game. You don't want that happening against tougher opponents. Even games like the Chicago one, again, I thought it was businesslike, the fact that they went up and sort of kicked their feet up, but they're not going to be able to kick their feet up once they get a lead anymore against some of these teams. So I'm just hoping now that as the stakes sort of rise, as they play tougher teams, that they can sharpen up some of their details and just play a more consistent game where they don't have as many 10 to 15 minute stretches where they have lapses.
They won't be able to kick their feet up until they play the Blackhawks again on the 13th of February. That's coming shortly. But look, you're right, Harm. When we were talking to Rick Tocchet heading into the break, it was that this team needed a break. And I think that was really evident in the way they were playing. And look, the theme that we've heard from Tocchet in the first 2 days back in Raleigh there have been, don't get too high on yourself. Don't start reading the headlines. You're getting a lot of great press right now, but you haven't done anything yet. And I like that seems to be the messaging from up top, is that you haven't done anything yet. And that seems to be the message, like we've talked about organizational alignment all throughout the organization, right down to the players and, of course, the coaching staff as well, that they have not done anything yet. And the games that matter are still a couple months away, but you got to finish strong here. And you've got to be doing all your fine tuning to prepare for the playoffs. Let's bring him in a little early because he's here early. Look at that go-getter. I like that about Jeff. Jeff Paterson gets here. He gets here early. He sits in the back. He listens, and he's ready to go whenever we call on him. And that's going to be right now. Jeff Paterson's hit today is brought to you by Greta. And folks, you probably saw it on our social channels already. The watch party date has officially been set for February 22nd when Vancouver takes on Seattle. Jeff's going to be in Seattle for that game. So unfortunately, no rink wide from Greta, but tickets are on sale now for just $10 with proceeds going to support Canuck Place Children's Hospice. Your ticket gets you access to the best watch party in the city, Greta's game day food and drink specials, an exclusive swag bag, and a chance to win some sweet prizes with the Canuck Place Children's Hospice raffle. Get your tickets at nationgear.ca before they sell out. We're all going to be there. Harm and I are going to be there. Grady will be there. It's going to be a good time. We'll be hosting it. And hey, I've thrown out the invite. I know people are asking. I've thrown out the invite to Mr. Chris Faber. I know people are wondering. I've thrown out the invite. He knows he's welcome. He's got to buy a ticket though. No free entry for him. Yeah,
stop it. Are you serious?
Oh yeah, dude, 100% I'm making him pay for a ticket. Are you kidding me? No, I don't know. Well, probably not. But yeah, check us out. Check us out at Greta on February 22nd. Come watch a game with us, folks. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's get to Jeff Paterson here. Jeff, we made you wait. Are you sad that you can't come to the watch party?
Yeah, well, 2 weeks ago you were like, "Hey, we're gonna have a watch party and we want you there," and then you're like, "Now we need you out of the country and like not even in the neighborhood." So I haven't had a chance to get down to Climate Pledge. When I traveled, I saw most of the buildings. There's a couple of new ones, the Mullet and the Islanders' new building. Seattle have not been down there yet, and so looking forward to seeing a game there. And look, I'm excited. I heard Harm off the top, and Quads, I'm sure you feel the same way. Like, this is go time. Like, there's 33 games. There's going to be so many good matchups, big games, big tests for the Vancouver Canucks, starting right out of the gate against the Carolina team that is actually better than the Canucks since Christmas. And look at the Canucks, like they never lose. And Carolina actually has more points since Christmas than the Vancouver Canucks. And they've got top 5 special teams. So as much as the Canucks power play looked great heading into the break, can it pick up with the Elias Lindholm? What's that going to look like? The integration there. And the penalty kill for the Carolina Hurricanes is one of the best in the National Hockey League. So, look, Carolina's a 4-line team. They play hard and structured under Rod Brindamore. This will be a great test for Carolina, but it'll be a great test for the Vancouver Canucks. So it's not the featured matchup on the scoreboard tonight because Vegas and Edmonton are doing their thing, but this is a pretty good one. And what a way to come out of the gate here. 8 of 10 on the road for the Vancouver Canucks. And so really curious to see where they are at the end of this 10-game stretch. And can they continue to roll the way they have through most of the season?
Jeff, they were Carolina, that is, are on a 3-game win streak. But can you say they're still a red hot team? They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. Can you still say they're red hot if they've been off for 2 weeks? Or January 27th was their last.
We'll find out. I mean, they don't have Svechnikov in their lineup, and the Canucks are getting Peter Kochetkov in goal, who has been out. since January 11th, hasn't faced NHL shooters. So I'd like to see the Canucks try to pepper him early and test him and see where his game is. They saw Antti Ranta here in Vancouver in that game back in early December. And that was sort of the kind of game I think that we expected. It was, you had to be patient on both sides. Ultimately, it was a 4-3 hockey game, but it kind of started out a little bit sleepy. And the Canucks got scoring from guys like Sam Lafferty and Ilya Mikheyev. And what would they do to take a goal from Mikheyev right about now? So a lot of focus on that line, obviously. What does the trade do for Elias Paterson? How does Elias Lindholm look in his debut? And what impact does the trade have on Ilya Mikheyev? I mean, his buddy is no longer with the Vancouver Canucks. He was the piece that was sent out, and it wasn't working with the two of them together. So, could there be an upside here? They just need more from him. And he doesn't have to be the high scorer on that line, but Rick Tocchet said before the break, they need him to play more like Höglander, like be aggressive, get in, bump guys, take them off the puck, force some turnovers, get the puck to the two Eliases and let them do some things. And then, Mikheyev hopefully is around the net to try to finish. Again, they score enough goals. So I'm not saying that Mikheyev needs to be, a 30-goal scorer, but he's just been so quiet and so ineffective, essentially, not hurting them defensively. But if you're playing in the top six on a contending team, I do think there are some expectations that you got to hold up your end of the bargain.
There are so many ways in which Elias Lindholm is going to be able to help this team. What are you most excited to see in terms of his potential fit? Because there's the power play, there's a PK, there's a two-way element, there's the potential scoring with Paterson. Is there one area in particular that you're most excited to watch?
Yeah, I mean, the guy's a face-off ace and is having a great season. He's above his career high. He's at 55% this year, and so it gives them a right shot element. And I wonder how much of a hybrid we're going to see between Paterson and Lindholm in terms of where the face-offs are. And, I love that versatility about him. He's just a consummate pro. And the fact that he's been traded before, it just so happens he's going back to the place that he broke into the National Hockey League. But, I think that'll ease his transition coming to a good hockey club. So I'm curious. We've seen, like when Mikheyev got back in the lineup, they were slow to roll him on the penalty kill. I wonder, because they've had guys that have sort of found their form and found their role. But Lindholm was second behind Chris Tanev in Calgary in shorthanded ice time this season. So I think he probably wants to be a penalty killer. I think that's an area that he can help the Vancouver Canucks. And you can never be too good in that area, even if you're making strides like the Canucks have. So, yeah, I think, they've had a couple of practices. Rick Tocchet said that he liked how, agreeable essentially that Lindholm was, that, when they asked him about systems and differences between Calgary and the things that he was seeing here, said, oh, no problem, I can pick that up. And I just think he's a smart hockey player. He's had a bit of a down season in terms of his, production numbers, but he's coming to a team that scores in bunches. And so I think it should be pretty seamless, but I'm not going to put a ton of pressure on him to go out and win this game single-handedly tonight. So, yeah, I mean, anytime you pay a price to get a player like that, it comes with some pressure, and I think all eyes are going to be on the new number 23 in the Vancouver Canucks lineup, but excited to see what his addition means to this hockey club that, is already playing terrific hockey. And as you guys touched on, what does the break do for both of these teams? I know Rick Tocchet talked a little bit about it kind of feeling like opening night. If you remember, the Canucks didn't have a great preseason, but they were ready on opening night when the Oilers came to town. And so I don't know if they can draw on that, but a little rust on both sides here. Maybe more for Carolina because Canucks had so many guys that actually played over the weekend in Toronto. But I'll be curious to see what the start of this game looks like just because of the layoff here.
To key in a little bit more on Lindholm's potential special teams impact, what do you think he can do for the first power play unit? And do you think that given the Canucks have this kind of unique movement-based style that they try and attack with that may require sort of time in terms of understanding how to read off guys and not having played with these players before, that it may take time for that fit to really materialize on the first unit for Lindholm?
Yeah, probably a little bit. And you've got four guys that, again, were feeling it on the homestand. And the power play went 7 for 18. I think that's close to 40%. Obviously, they leaned into it heavily against Columbus in that final game. So, I think for him, it's just kind of stay out of the way a little bit, get to the areas you're supposed to go. Obviously, Kuzmenko, when he played, was a right shot guy that, was sort of the down low guy this year, wasn't doing as much net front and wasn't as much production for him. So, I think this is where Lindholm just kind of leans into his experience, the veteran savvy that he brings with him, and he'll be a quick learner and quick study, I think, for the Canucks power play. So, again, it doesn't have to run through him. I just think you want to see him retrieve some pucks, keep plays alive, Tocchet pointed to that and said that was an area that, maybe he didn't even know Lindholm excelled as much as they'd watched some video, and he thought that was something that jumped out at him. So, that's something I'm going to be watching here because it's an underrated part of the power play. But, if puck gets to the corner, who wins those 50-50 battles? If it gets cleared, there goes 25 seconds. If you can come up with it and keep the play alive, regroup and keep the hammer down. So, again, he's joining a terrific situation. I hope he's excited about it. It's a great opportunity for him. And I would expect it'll be relatively seamless, but there might be the odd speed bump in game number 1.
Jeff, I was going to ask you, who's the Canuck that needs to step up down the stretch from here? It's Ilya Mikheyev, I think. And I don't think there's many other answers, so I'm going to change my question up a little bit. How long does Ilya Mikheyev have to step up? Because obviously we saw the time run out on Andrei Kuzmenko. How long does Ilya Mikheyev have to kind of step up here?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely worth monitoring. And I know that Rick Tocchet was asked about it a little bit and said they flat out they need more. They're using Pia Suter on that line with Miller and Besser. So, could they switch it and put Mikheyev? Like early in the season, I thought that's where Mikheyev was going to go and was going to be the defensive conscience for Miller and Besser. Now, Miller's held up his end of the bargain. Obviously, Pia Suter has been so seamless wherever he has played. But, the greatest tell about a coach and what he thinks of a player is his usage. And so people can scream from the top of mountains about Nils Höglander getting top 6 opportunities. If Rick Tocchet thought that was a good idea right now, Höglander would be back there. He was there earlier in the season, and Tocchet said he thought that Höglander got away from, the things that have made him successful to this point lower in the lineup. And so he seems reluctant. That to me feels like he'd be the next guy. I don't want to live in a world. This team has come too far this year. They've made this trade. Phil DiGiuseppe can't find his way back into the top 6. And I say that with all due respect to Phil, who's been out of the lineup for a while now. There's probably a role for him, 4th line, some penalty kill duty. You can never have enough depth, but I don't want to go back to that point in time where Phil DiGiuseppe, because, his offense was colder than Ilya Mikheyev's right now. So that's why there's still talk about, the need for one more piece perhaps, and can they make that happen? And, are they all in? I can't imagine that they're done at this stage with a month to go before the trade deadline. But I am going to be watching that closely, Dave, on this road trip. I think Mikheyev's going to get the opportunity tonight. You got Boston, obviously, one of the best challenges in the NHL on Thursday. If there's not any sort of spark from Ilya Mikheyev, I wonder by the weekend if we see some sort of different formulations for the Vancouver Canucks.
It's funny that we're talking about, even after this Lindholm acquisitions, there still being one question mark in Ilya Mikheyev in the top 6. It's funny because even the Miller line has Pia Suter, who I don't think many people imagined him being in the top 6 at this point in the season, yet he's picked up 4 goals and 6 points in his last 3 games, has been on fire. Why do you think he's had so much success in a top 6 role lately?
He just looks like a really smart hockey player. And I'll admit that, I knew of the player, but I didn't know all of his tendencies playing in Chicago and Detroit. So, the fact that he had been consistent as an offensive producer to a degree, like a 14 and a 15 goal scorer, double digits in all 3 of his years in the National Hockey League, that tells you that he's got enough offensive flair on the chops to play higher in the lineup. But you're right, when he was signed, Bluger was signed on July 1st, and we thought, no, Teddy Bluger is not the answer for a 3rd line center. And then they waited out Pia Suter and got him for 2 years. And I thought, okay, that's great. That's more of what you're looking at. But he just brings versatility, flexibility. He seems like so low maintenance, and I think coaches really just appreciate that. And again, he does a nice job of reading off his line mates, whoever he's played with Paterson earlier in the season, and now he's kind of found a home. Is that the long-term answer? They could do worse, but they might be able to do better. And so, again, with the tendencies and the track record of Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin, I do think that they're going to beat the bushes a little bit and see what's out there at what price ahead of the trade deadline. But for the short term, at the very least, right now, Pia Suter's holding up his end of the bargain on a very good line, and it is a little bit of a surprise to me, but good on him. He's just kind of puts his head down, goes about his business, and he's been pretty effective for the Vancouver Canucks.
Go get Frank Vetrano is what I say, but we'll see. Yep. Just before we let you go, J-Pat, Arshdeep Bains yesterday, AHL All-Star MVP. We saw a lot of discourse on Twitter of, they got to give this guy a shot. They got to call him up. What's your take on Arshdeep Bains? And I guess as it relates to the conversation of, do they got to call this guy up?
Well, he was fresh and ready because he missed the skills competition on Sunday. So he stepped right in and awesome. Like, again, just what a week of all-stars for the organization, top to bottom. Like, it's an incredible story. And so, he remains very much on the radar, I think, to get a call up. But you're right, Dave. I saw an awful lot of like, get him on the first flight to Raleigh and all that kind of stuff. Look, they're playing the Carolina Hurricanes and then they're playing the Boston Bruins. And then they go back-to-back on the weekend, Detroit and Washington. You're not going to get a rookie to dip his toe in the NHL water against the best teams in the league on the road to play 8 minutes. Like, it's just not going to happen. So I look at that 9-game homestand in March. I would think that, the organization's on the record is talking about wanting to get some guys in. I'm ready for them to try somebody else other than Linus Karlsson, but I think they know what they've got in Karlsson. And that's the other thing. Like, Linus Karlsson, when he gets called up, can't get into the lineup. And he's got more pro experience, a bunch more pro experience than Archie Bain. So, we saw it with Höglander last year. You're seeing it with Podkolzin this year. This organization is in no rush to get these guys to the National Hockey League. The league's going to be around for a while. And I do think he'll get his chance. But I just think it's foolish to bang this drum that, because he was the AHL All-Star in a 3-on-3 skills competition, that somehow you're going to plug him in against the Boston Bruins on Thursday and expect the world from this guy. Like, I'm a big believer in setting guys up for success. So get him at home where you can spot him. You can find soft spots in other lineups. You can shelter him, all those types of things. But the idea of just bringing him up to play a handful of minutes, it doesn't make much sense to me. Plus, Abbotsford's short on bodies. So, and the Canucks don't have a roster spot. That's the other thing too. Like, I don't know if they're at their maximum, and Phil DiGiuseppe's out on this road trip, and they would have to. Carson Soucy isn't on IR yet, but that's paperwork. And if they do activate Phil DiGiuseppe, I think that's what they would do to make a roster spot for Phil DiGiuseppe. But Phil DiGiuseppe, again, has a track record well beyond Arshdeep Bains at the NHL level. So, good on Arshdeep. That's a great story, the local angle and all that kind of stuff. But just be patient and keep doing what you're doing. It's going to happen for him. But I think probably more likely in March than here in February.
Jeff, great stuff as always. Thanks so much for joining us. People can find you on Rinkwide after the game. Who's your co-host tonight? I got
Irfan Gafar, and looking forward to it. As I said right off the top, like, these are big time games. We're going to find out a lot about the Canucks and can they pick up where they left off before the break. And they're going to be pushed, but they'll be able to push Carolina too. So should be some fun. Looking forward to it, and hopefully people will check out Rinkwide Vancouver when it's posted later on tonight.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
And that was Jeff Paterson. Like he said, check him out on Rinkwide Vancouver. All right, time for our Light the Lamp contest, and man, it has been a long time since we've done one of these. Vancouver is playing Carolina tonight, and we want to know who's going to score the first goal for Vancouver. If you nail it, you could win a $25 gift card to the Four Winds Tap Room located at 72nd and River Road in Delta. Enter by following us on social media, keep an eye out for today's show clip, and comment who you think will light the lamp and score the first goal tonight. Winners will be contacted directly. Check us out at Canucks Army, at Canucks Convo on Twitter, at CanucksArmy.com on Instagram, and Canucks Army on Facebook. And make sure you ask about Four Winds Light Lager at your local liquor store, or have some delivered right to your front door through the online shop at fourwindsbrewing.ca. Okay, it's a sponsor-heavy show, folks, and we got a new sponsor as well. And Harmon and I are actually really excited. We're excited for all of our sponsors, of course, but this is a segment that we cooked up, and it's presented by our new friends at Mr. Lube. Okay, this segment is called the Tune-Up, and it's basically a Harmon Dial monologue is how we've designed it. Is I'm going to do the read as I normally do, and then Harmon is going to give us a tune-up. And Harmon, how would you describe the segment? Because I wrote it, I described it in the show description as you looking at a player or a topic on the team that needs a tune-up. How would you describe the segment?
It's a good question. It might just even be more like looking under the hood at one particular aspect of a player or the team's play that is intriguing to me.
All right. I love it. And you are going to be looking under the hood because this is the tune-up brought to you by Mr. Lube. Take it away, Harm.
Yeah, so there's, of course, been a lot of talk about Ilya Mikheyev right now. He no longer has Andrei Kuzmenko taking all the bullets from fans as far as ineffective top nine forwards go. We spoke about him a little bit yesterday as well, how his skating doesn't look as dynamic. And so I went and looked at NHL Edge tracking data because now we have the objective numbers to be able to look into, is this true or not? And so you look at the 2021-22 season, his last season with the Leafs, before he signed with the Canucks, Mikheyev ranked in the 95th percentile of all NHL forwards for speed bursts above 20 miles per hour. So he was in the top 5% essentially of all NHL forwards, clearly one of the fastest skaters. This year, however, he ranks only in the 63rd percentile, meaning he's only been slightly above league average for speed bursts above 20 miles per hour. And what's even more interesting is last season he was in the 69th percentile. So he was actually slightly faster last season playing with a partially torn ACL than he is right now. And I just thought that was interesting. I think we've all seen it with the eye, but to have the objective data to back up what we're seeing and why he's been less effective, it stems and really comes down to the lack of explosiveness in his skating right now.
I love it. And Talk had spoken about him needing to get in on the forecheck and play a little more like Nils Höglander. And who thought Talkett would be saying that about any player? Please play more like Nils Höglander. But here we are. Of course, that was the tune-up brought to you by Mr. Lube, the pioneer of the no appointment, warranty-approved oil change, now providing appointment-free tire service and sales. Find them at one of their 16 locations across the Lower Mainland. To find your nearest location, visit them online at mrlube.com. I think that went really well. I got one more ad, and then it's time for anyone else. And Harm, you're doing the anyone else read today, so I'll let you prepare that. But I got to tell you about another sponsor of ours, and it is HSBC World Rugby Sevens. Western Canada's largest sporting event. This year is the 9th time the event has visited Vancouver as part of the World Rugby Sevens series. Tickets are on sale now at vansevens.com, starting from just $40 per day, February 23rd to 25th. If you want to go, we've got a 4-pack of tickets for the entire weekend to give away. Text hashtag sevens, that's SEVENS to 778-402-9680 for your chance to win. We will be giving away a 4-pack each week until the event. Text hashtag sevens to 778-402-9680 to enter. All right, Harm, take it away.
Okay, folks, it's time for anyone else presented by DoorDash. It's our listeners' chance to get involved and hit us up in the YouTube live chat. And it's also our listeners' chance to get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when they download the DoorDash app and enter code NATION25. Offer valid in Canada, subject to change. Terms apply. Folks, don't worry about cooking dinner or running to the store tonight. Let it all come to you with DoorDash.
Awesome job, Harm. And we knew you'd crush it. We knew you would crush it.
Did you, though? I'm not great at ad reads.
All it is reading with different inflection in your voice. It's not hard. You got it. You crushed it. You crushed it. All right. Get your anyone else's in, folks. I've got a couple because it doesn't look like we have any in the chat. So I've prepared some. Instead of me awkwardly scrolling through the chat, I've prepared some. This one was one I wanted you to break down, Harmon. Look, we might as well have done the tune-up 2.0 here because this is something that was making the rounds on Twitter. And can we get this upgrade? It's the Rush Chances tweet from NHL Network's Mike Kelly was tweeting this out. And this was really interesting. So for those on the podcast, basically, it is showing offense off the rush. It's showing goals and it's showing chances. The Canucks are tied with the Dallas Stars for first in goals off the rush this season. Okay, the Golden Knights are third, the Flyers are fourth, the Blues are fifth. So those are the 5 teams that you need to know. Now with chances, the Canucks rank 32nd in the league in chances. They are the worst. I shouldn't even say the worst. They create the fewest rush chances. They get the fewest rush chances. They are still scoring the most goals of any team off the rush, aside from the Dallas Stars, who of course they're tied with. But the Stars, those other teams, the Stars rank 8th in chances. The Golden Knights rank 6th. The Flyers rank 1st. And the Blues rank 4th. So when you look at this, you might say, okay, there's the PDO machine. There's the PDO argument. Everything. We know all of this. We understand all of this. Can you help contextualize it a bit further, Harmon?
Yeah, so let's start with the chances component. Their lack of rush chances is sort of by design. I think when Rick Tocchet took over, it's not as if they purposely said, we don't want to create offense off the rush, but it was more a mentality shift of we're not going to make controlled entries and try and make passing plays off the rush unless we're 100% certain that it's a high percentage play. That was to cut down on a lot of the offensive entry turnovers that we saw from the likes of JT Miller, for example, where you're carrying the puck through the neutral zone and instead of dumping it in and going to chase it, you're trying to thread the needle on an east-west pass, and really it's been no more east-west, let's go north-south. Now, when you cut down on those rush turnovers, when you elect to dump the puck in once you gain the red line more often than not, that means that you're also defensively not going to give up a lot off the rush, because most rush chances that the Canucks surrendered under Bruce Boudreau started with some type of turnover or giveaway in the neutral zone. So I think the Canucks are okay playing a low event style in terms of rush chances both ways, which also shows up in their defensive numbers, where the Canucks are one of the NHL top teams in defending rush chances against. So when I see 32nd in the NHL for rush chances for, I mean, is it great? No. Would I like to see it a bit higher? Yeah. But it's not something that I'm worried about. Now, when it comes to number one in rush goals, of course, if you're committing to a style where you're not going to create a high volume of chances, it's going to slow down. It's going to come back down to earth at some point. The top six, of course, has finishing talent. When you look at Paterson, Miller, Besser, players that are going to convert on a higher ratio of their chances. So I do expect them to be the type of team that, you know, I think they have the shooting talent to always score more goals than they have chances. So if they rank, I don't know, 20, end up next season ranking 20th in chances, they up that number. I'm still expecting their goal output to be higher than where they rank in chance output. But with it coming back down to earth, I do think that they're going to need to start getting comfortable sort of winning tighter, lower scoring hockey games. And sorry, before I jump to that, the bottom six is almost where I'm expecting more of the regression when it comes to rush scoring, because it's one thing if Pedersen, Besser, and Miller are converting all these chances. You're having guys like Nils Höglander, Sam Lafferty, and Dakota Joshua that are shooting way above their career average. I think the bottom six is where that goal output is going to start to taper off down the stretch. And that's where you're going to need to get comfortable, again, winning some lower scoring hockey games. Not every game can be a barn burner against the Leafs or against the Blue Jackets. And that's where, for instance, the win that they had against Arizona in January, 2-1, I liked that victory, even though it wasn't a Mona Lisa performance, because it showed the Canucks were comfortable in a game where neither side was creating a lot of offensive looks. And the Canucks do have the structure in place. They have the upgraded blue line now. They have the goaltending to be able to, if neither team has time and space, neither team's creating a whole lot, to be successful in that style. So those are some of my takeaways when I see this data.
I love it. I love that you can kind of look at it and give us that context, because when you look on Twitter, right? Like when you look on Twitter, the thing you're seeing is, oh, the PDO is going to hit in game one of the playoffs. That it's coming down. It's coming back down to earth. And I like being able to provide that context here. This is great. People are asking if we were bored over the last 9 days. Yes, very much so. I have been missing Canucks hockey, man. Like, hey, you and I used to joke on our first road trip in Edmonton. For the past couple of years, you and I have been the only media members out there in Edmonton. We always just joke that, man, you can't have another season where we just want meaningful games in November. Like, that's what you and I say every year, was meaningful games in November. And this year, we're getting meaningful games. It's odd because these games mean something, but it's almost like now we've made this jump where these games matter, but they're making the playoffs. So now the playoff games are what really matters. And we never would have thought that, because when you looked at the meaningful games in March stuff that used to be thrown around by the last regime a lot, it was like, we want to be in the dance. Like, we want to be near the playoff bar by March. And usually they were way out of it, and then they'd climb back, screw their draft lottery position. But it was never anything like, we're actually going to knock on the door. Now it's like, we don't even get those meaningful games in March because they're already there. They're already in the playoffs. Of course, they're still meaningful, but it's weird. You've made that jump, it feels like.
I had a dentist appointment this morning, and my dentist, she knows I'm a Canucks reporter, but I've been going there since I was like 13, 14 in high school, had braces type thing.
So when you first started being a Canucks reporter?
Well, no, I wasn't at that point, but I have never been asked by her about how the Canucks are doing until now, when she was like, oh, the Canucks are so good this year. I'm hopping on the bandwagon, and there's another lady in the office that's jumping on the bandwagon. And I'm like, oh my God, when my dentist is talking about the Canucks, this team has captured the city's attention because, again, in like 10 years of going to my dentist, I've never been asked about how the Canucks are performing as a team, and just, I'm watching how they're doing these days.
I love it. I love it. Logan Van Dyke and I made a little bet. It's not so much a bet, but people have been asking for a while if I'll be bringing back the mullet at any point. I said it in the chat and I'll stand by it. If the Vancouver Canucks win the cup this year, I will grow the mullet back. I promise. I will grow it back. If they win the cup, I will grow the mullet back. And not just any mullet. You look at Ryan Pinder's mullet, our friend over at Flames Nation. His mullet, he's got like the shaved sides and like it's crazy. It's like, it's actually like business in the front, party in the back. I used to have kind of like a part and it was a little different, but no, I'll go all out. I'll go all out on the mullet if the Canucks win the cup. You heard it here first, folks. Okay, let's see here. This one from 7th Street Dream. I'll throw it at you, Harm. If the Canucks are looking at adding a few more depth pieces, how do they add with their current cap situation? Even adding a bottom 6 guy seems hard. Do you pay to, or then he said, paying to dump Mikheyev isn't ideal, because obviously that's one route that they could go.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to look at dumping a piece like Mikheyev to accomplish that. Think about how Dan Milstein would feel. You go through all that hoopla to trade Kuzmenko, and it's like, yeah, now we want out on all your clients. No, I mean, look, Zadorov would be an option. Myers would be an option. I still think that's probably a long shot. The thing to keep in mind is there are still ways to be creative with the cap, especially if they're depth pieces. They're presumably not going to have high cap hits. So if the other team retains 50% on, let's say, a contract that's 1.3 million, well, that's not going to be hard to fit on the books. All you're going to need to do is make a corresponding roster move to send somebody else down. So when it comes to adding depth pieces, I'm not worried about the cap. The only situation where you'd have to potentially move notable players out and go through these gymnastics, and you're talking about, what might we have to do with a player like Zadorov, is if you're chasing a big piece like a Chris Tanev. And even in that scenario, there have been situations like when Tampa, I believe it was, acquired David Savard in 2021 from Columbus. So they had Columbus retain 50% of Savard's cap hit, and then they also had Detroit as a third-party broker retain a further 50%. So by the time Savard got to Tampa, his cap hit was just above $1 million. So there are ways to be creative. I don't think the cap will be too prohibitive in terms of them being able to add depth pieces.
This one from Shiv. The Canucks should let Lindholm walk and sign Reinhart instead. I wanted to talk about this a little bit. Not so much Reinhart. I like it. I like the free agent. I like you throwing out your acquisitions that you want. But I wanted to touch on this in the sense of, I've seen this a lot since the trade was made, and we didn't really talk about it yesterday. This idea that, if the Canucks don't re-sign Lindholm, then that was an overpay at the deadline. And first of all, I don't agree. But second, I just think when you look at what Lindholm's going to bring to this team, you want to see it for yourself. Like, why lock yourself in long term? I know I brought this up a bit on the emergency episode, but I don't understand that people are out there thinking, okay, if they don't re-sign him, then it's a failure. Why? Like, we all kind of know that he's going to get overpaid in his next deal. Like, it seemed like with Zadorov, we knew Zadorov was going to be asking for a lot in the offseason, so you give up a third and fifth to get him. It's not an overpay or a failure if you don't re-sign him. Like, Tyler Toffoli was totally different because you traded for him and then you let him walk for no reason. And it was like, no, you should have kept Toffoli. He played well for you. And then he walked and signed for not very much in Montreal, which is obviously a situation you want to avoid. But with Lindholm, just wait and see what you have. And then, you have that flexibility to go out and sign a guy like Reinhart in the offseason. I just don't think there's any need to rush and start talking, if this doesn't happen, then this is a failure. I don't think that's fair.
There were reports earlier in the season that Lindholm from Calgary wanted a $9 million cap hit on a long-term extension. So I don't think Lindholm's next contract is going to age gracefully at all. He's going to turn 30 by December, and he hasn't shown the ability to drive offense by himself the way somebody like JT Miller has. So with that in mind, first of all, I don't even know if that contract makes sense, even if the Canucks could afford it. And then there's the second part of the equation, which is, yeah, the Canucks could technically afford to make a big splash, pay somebody in the $8 million range, but you'd be compromising your team's depth given how much Paterson's going to cost, given how much Hronik's going to cost. You look at the third line, for example. That's been such a big difference maker for this team. It's the advantage that the Canucks have over some other capped out teams. A team like Toronto, for example, that just doesn't have that type of depth in their bottom six. Well, Teddy Bluger's a pending UFA. Dakota Joshua's a pending UFA. And if you're looking at potentially re-signing a player like Lindholm or as the commenter suggests, going after Reinhart, who's having a huge year and is going to command a massive payday, you're going to have to probably look at least trading a piece like Connor Garland away, which doesn't make sense to gut your bottom six depth, which has been such a difference maker for you, to add another piece at the top of your lineup. Do you become too top heavy of a team? That would be my concern.
I love it. Travis Wall asking when the tickets are on sale for the Greta watch party. Today. They go on sale today. They're already there. If you go to nationgear.ca, you should find them under the Canucks Army tab. You'll see them right there. $10. You can go buy them at nationgear.ca. This one from Pimpan Strong. My main focus tonight will be on deciding which one of Shea or Pesci the Canucks should sign this offseason. And hey, when we have these conversations about free agents and stuff, the Canucks have a lot of flexibility heading into this offseason because they're now out of the Andrei Kuzmenko contract, because they're going to have to make a decision on Tyler Myers. Like, there's money coming off the books, and obviously they're going to have to re-sign Elias Pettersson, and of course they also need to re-sign Filip Hronik. But, if it gets to a point, I'm not saying that it's there or it's going to get to a point, but we've heard big numbers thrown out for Filip Hronik. And look, I think that's a little bit alarming when we just haven't seen him hold down a pair by himself to this point. Even in the limited opportunities he's had, he just hasn't been able to do it. So look, there's other options out there. So I like that comment from Pim Panstrong. Logan Van Dyke is trying to add to our bet that if the Canucks win a cup, I will grow the mullet. But I'm not allowed to cut the mullet until they win their second cup, and I'm not agreeing to that. I'm not agreeing to that. There's no way.
Okay, there's got to be a bet where you'll do something at a bar below them winning the cup. Because come on, what will you do if they make it should be like escalating tiers of like, okay, if they make the conference final, you'll do this. If they make the cup final, you'll do this, and then if they win the cup, you'll do that.
I don't know, different lengths of hair. No, I'm not. I don't know. I like
if they make the conference final, you'll never talk about baseball again on this show.
No, can't promise that. Especially if you think about it, they win the conference final, right? That will be in the heart of baseball season. I'll be itching to be talking about baseball.
Yeah, I'm sure our listeners will love hearing about Shohei Ohtani when they're in the conference final.
But how does this affect Julio Rodriguez and the Seattle Mariners? Okay. Also, I wanted to get this in. This isn't anyone else for me. Let's pull this photo up here, Grady. Arshdeep Bains wins AHL MVP last night. He scored the game-winning goal. I hate to say it, on Clay Stevenson, who was there representing the Hershey Bears, former Coquitlam Express goaltender, who I've talked about a lot on this show, more than any show in the Vancouver market. I'm sure we've talked about Clay Stevenson more than anybody for Canucks shows. So Arshdeep Bains takes home the 2024 AHL All-Star MVP award. Nice showing for him last night. Really nice showing for him last night in the 3-on-3 format. That article's up now at CanucksArmy.com if you want to read more about Arsh's performance. But like I said to J-Pat, we saw a lot of people throwing out they got to get this guy up. They got to call him up. He's got to be up here right now. I don't agree at all. I think this is a nice backup plan. I think it might be good to get him a look in March, like Jeff suggested, but you're trying to win games here. You're trying to win games down the final stretch. And I just don't know if Arshdeep Bains is better than any option that you have right now that's in the lineup. Like, yeah, do I think he's probably better than Linus Karlsson? Yeah, probably. But is Linus Karlsson even playing in the lineup? No, he's not. I just think Archie Bains should be in that conversation if they need a forward. But like, if they're completely healthy and right now they're just missing Phil DiGiuseppe, and I don't think there's a spot in the lineup for Bains, there's no harm in letting him stay down in Abbotsford. And I think that's kind of the take that Canucks management has thrown out this year as well.
Yeah, I also think about it from this perspective. Given the stakes of the season, you're contending to finish first, not only in your division, but in your conference to get a more favorable first round matchup. I mean, put it this way, NHL coaches will always take the known quantity over the unknown player, even if the unknown player has a higher ceiling. And so the way I think about it is I would bet you that Rick Tocchet would rather insert Phil DiGiuseppe into the lineup at some point down the stretch over somebody like an Archie Bains, even though I'm sure there are a lot of fans that would rather see Bains over DiGiuseppe, just because Tocchet knows with DiGiuseppe, at least he's not going to hurt me defensively. At least I know exactly who he is at the NHL level. I know his limitations. I know that he's not going to make mistakes. I know that he's not going to burn me. Whereas with Bains, there's upside there, but you're throwing a guy in there that's never played in the NHL. You have zero idea of what to expect. And when there are real stakes on the line, that's a decision that not just Tocchet, but most NHL head coaches would prefer to go with the proven vet over the unproven rookie.
Yep, absolutely. People are pointing out that our walls are bare, Harman. People are bullying us in the YouTube live chat, and I don't like it. We're working on it, folks. We're working on it. We're going to have some stuff coming soon. And Nuckhead, you would think. That's all I'm going to say to Nuckhead's comment in the YouTube live chat. You would think. But anyways, people are just throwing out different haircuts that I should get. Someone said I have to get dreadlocks if they win the Western Conference Final. Someone said I have to get a low taper fade, all this stuff. Look, folks, until they win the cup, the hair's staying how it is. I'm not changing up my hairstyle. And this conversation I've had with people recently is, I think it was Batch or PJ, one of them, pointed out that I've had 4 different hairstyles in the past 3 years. And it's absolutely true. I changed my hair quite a bit, and I like this haircut. Like, I'm sticking with this one for at least a year, but I do change it up a lot. But I'm sticking with this one unless they win the cup.
How often do you shave?
Geez, like, I was actually joking with someone last night about this. I shave now, unfortunately. Like, I used to, when we started doing this show, Harm, which was October, probably it was once a week, maybe I'd have to shave. Dude, I don't know what happened. Now it's every 1 or 2 days. It's crazy.
Okay, sick. All right, here's what we're going to do.
Finally hit puberty. That's what happened.
Well, no, Quads, I hit that stage when I was, I think, 14 or 15. I hit that stage, first of all. Second, I think you should, from this point on, until they're eliminated, not shave again.
Oh, I would get in big trouble with the missus for that one. No, it looks bad. And I think we knew each other when I tried to grow a mustache.
No,
Harm.
I've never seen
not
it.
Nice. I will send you. You know what? Okay, if they win the Western Conference Finals, Western Conference Final, I'll post a photo of with the mustache on Twitter. But I'll send it to you, Harm. I'll show it to you.
Okay.
But
Get the Mike Gillis solidarity beard going when he was about to be fired.
I was joking that if I want to get a playoff beard, I literally need to start now, because I don't grow anything here. Nothing grows here, but a lot grows right there. And that's what I mean. Look at this. I shaved 2 days ago and now it's back. It's crazy.
We'll get one of those micro-bladed tattoos, but it's just a beard, like how ladies do it for their eyebrows, but it'll just be facial hair for you.
Logan Van Dyke says, I'm 33 and still can't grow a beard. Don't worry, Quaz. But my brother has a beard. My dad literally shaves in the morning, and my dad needs to shave again at 5 p.m. because it's he grows hair so fast, and he had a big beard. But yeah, I didn't have that yet. But also my brother, this is maybe where I'm headed, guys. My brother started being able to grow facial hair here around my age. I'm about to turn 24. That's when he started being able to grow it. So now I'm scared. I don't want a scraggly beard. And no offense to my brother, I think his beard looks good now, but he went through a rough patch.
Get this kid some beard oil, Harm.
What's the oil for? There's nothing there on his face.
It'd be like your moisturizing product when you come in studio.
Oh, geez. All right. I think we'll close out there. Do we have anything else that we wanted to get to? Yeah, no, let's just get to Betway and close it out. Get the Betway bet of the day, Grady, up. It's great. It's a great bet today, Harm. It's an easy one. Easy money. On the money line, the Canucks are underdogs heading into Carolina, which means a $10 bet at plus 125 odds will return you $22.50 over on Betway. Canucks are taking this one, folks. Must be 19 plus play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. I'm saying Lindholm scores the first goal for them. Going back to our Light the Lamp contest, I'm saying Lindholm scores the first goal tonight.
I was thinking Paterson just because he's going to be rejuvenated from some time off, even though he was at the All-Star break. He was on fire for most of January, and now he gets a brand new line mate. Exciting stuff.
Credit to you, Quads. You had the Isles beating the Leafs yesterday as your Betway bet of the day, and that hit.
Never been a bigger lock. Like, never been a bigger lock. The Leafs are frauds. I've been saying it for months. Never been a bigger lock. Like, I didn't doubt that for a second.
Saying it for years.
Only allowed to do $10 bets on this show, but might have thrown out the old Chris Faber. Throw $500 on this.
Oh, you've been doing well with some of these, juicier odd bets that you've been throwing out of late. So
yeah, all vibes.
Guys on a heater.
All vibes. Yeah, all vibes. All vibes. I'm a good vibes guy.
The ultimate Leafs versus Isles parlay is to tab John Tavares to get a point and for them to still lose.
Yeah, I hit that earlier this year.
It's a good one. It's a lock. That's a lock too, Harm. That's a lock. All right, we'll close it out there. For our technical producer, Grady Sass, and our intern, I didn't even shout out our intern, my mistake, Madison Buckingham, and Harmon Dial. My name is Dave Quadrelli. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation with Harmon and Quads brought to you by the Toyota BZ4X. The BZ4X's fresh look is just an added bonus to its range since you can drive up to 406 kilometers on a single charge. That's enough to get you from Kitsilano to Whistler or Kamloops to Kelowna and back and still be home in time for the game. Now that's what we'd call electric. The best part, by choosing electric, you can get up to $11,000 in rebates and incentives. The BZ4X are in stock and selling quickly, so make sure to visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer to get your hands on one. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.